morning. My name is Emily Weiss. I am a senior in the FLEX program, and my big word presentation is on children's effects of divorce and does time really heal all wounds. We're going to start with a video.
Dear Mom and Dad, I know that you are hurting. I'm hurting too. I feel like feed off your tension, fear, and shock. Although I am young and cannot express verbally what is happening in our lives, I'm still feeling the impact. My heart is broken every time I have to give up a parent. My sense of security is lost. Please don't assume that I'm resilient. Please don't assume that my life will be exactly as it was, and that I will continue to feel the same love for both of you. I'm a human being just like you. My needs are just like yours. I need love, attention, nurturing, stability, consistency, affection, understanding, patience, and mostly to be wanted. When you fight over me or put me in the middle of your argument, you are sending me the message that winning with each other is more important than my life. I am learning from you that it is better to be right than to be loved. You are teaching me that I came from a person who is unlovable and wrong, that I am somehow wrong too. You confide your hurt in my heart, you are storing up adult pain, robbing me of my childhood. You are taking away my belief that love is unconditional and replacing it with a message that tells me to become hard, not to love because I will get hurt and not be able to recover. You may not understand this today, and I am so small that you are not thinking about my future, but you are putting me at a greater risk of getting a divorce myself. At times you are risking my safety to fill a void in your heart. My safety is your job. Without you and your protection, I am unshielded from the world. This will manifest in irrational fear for me, because I will stay in a state of fight or flight for most of my life. Someday, this initial shock will wear off. How you choose to parent me through this crisis will never wear off. I will either feel your sense of selflessness, support, protection, or I will have a scar on my heart with a message that reads, good things happen to good people. It must be bad. Thoughtfully, child of divorce.
So my thesis is, although a good number of people in society are deluded in thinking that divorce only places short-term effects on children, the impact that it leaves is much more long-term for various reasons. Okay, so to begin with our roadmap, we're going to start today with what changes a child's reaction to divorce. Then we're going to go through the immediate effects of divorce, the impact, the relationships that it impacts, the future of children, the rebuttal, and then we'll go over my service learning project. Right now, I'd like for you to go to the URL and take a short quiz. Should I just wait for like a minute?
I guess, yeah. Explain what the quiz is. What is this quiz?
What?
What is this quiz?
Divorce quiz. I don't know.
You can probably go on.
Okay.
Just like add another minute to it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so there's many different things that changes a child's reaction to divorce. They're quite inevitable, and there's not much that can be done to change it. The first is age. Children who are younger have a much harder time understanding what's going on during the divorce process, and they will often result in like confusion and frustration because they can't understand what's happening and they don't understand. All that they see is their parents separating. They don't see any of the thought to it, I guess. Okay. But older children understand it more, but they do have a more difficult time coping with it because they do know the severity of it and they understand the process of divorce a little bit more. Another thing that impacts the reaction that a child will have is gender. Boys tend to act out while girls keep to themselves more, and this is shown that boys will act out in school or like lash out at their teachers or their parents or their friends more to express their anger or frustration, while girls often have higher depression rates in cases of divorce because they will tend to themselves more and they don't lash out as frequently. Another thing that impacts the reaction is mental disorders such as depression or anxiety. The National Survey of Adolescents said that 80% of teens in mental hospitals and 60% of children in psychiatric hospitals are products of divorced parents. So that just shows that if we lower the divorce rates, we'll lower the rates in mental disorders as well, because divorce does increase those rates for many people. This is good. Okay. Now onto the immediate effects. So the immediate effects are older children, diminishing relationships, coping with the divorce, how you can minimize these effects, and psychologically. Older children are often forced to act as the lost parent in a divorce. They have to tend to the needs of the adult that they are trying to help while taking care of their siblings, and it's often a really big role. They sometimes act as that lost parent, and it's way too much emotional and physical expectations that are placed on a child. It rips them of their childhood, and it also makes them feel inadequate because they can never live up to the expectations that this parent is placing on them. Another effect is the diminishing relationships. Parenting time changes, and whether the mom gets all the parenting time or the father, or they split it 50-50, or it's majority to the mother, majority to the father, it changes the relationship immensely because you don't see your parent as much as you did when they were married. There's also a very common thing, such as the absent father role, and this visual here shows, that's not the right one, just keep going. Here's the absent father role. Coping with it, younger kids often have more confusion, which leads to frustration. Frustration often leads to anger, so their coping methods would be much different than older children because younger children will probably lash out more in school and show their frustrations that way, while older kids will often have a period of reflection because they understand what's going on, and it's not easy for them in any means, but they won't lash out as much. They will just like reflect upon it internally. There's also an immediate effect. I should have said this, an immediate effect. No, I didn't. Okay. So there's also financially a big impact because families go from one home to two. So the income rate almost decreases by half. Almost decreases by half once a divorce occurs, so that can impact a lot of families. In order to minimize the effects, which are very difficult to do, but the best ways to do it is through communication and through the conflict that a parent shows to their kids. Communication is extremely vital in this process. Communicating to the kids more importantly, because you have to let them know that often they feel that it's their fault, that they could have done something to stop it. So you have to communicate to them, know that it's not their fault, and know that you still love them. And conflict shown to kids, I forget what I was going to say here, but just, I'm saying something. Okay, psychologically, there are issues that can't be minimized and often do not reduce in any way. These are psychological issues such as obesity and sickness. Obesity, your children are 54% more likely to be overweight or obese if they're a product of divorce. This just shows that divorce psychologically goes further back in your mind than people would think, because 54% more likely is a high percentage chance just for the basic of divorced parents, and this can occur because of economic status. The income is decreasing drastically, so that can impact the amount of food or the food bought in families. Also, it can have an impact because of stress levels, and that is where sickness ties in, because when you're stressed, your immune system often lowers. Sorry. Your immune system often lowers, and that is what keeps you healthy, or what gets you healthier faster once you are sick. And so sickness is often increased in divorce for both children and parents. Okay, next we have relationships. Relationships change drastically after divorce. Relationships that have already been established are often called into question and impacted from divorce. Parents and children, kids have less attachment to parents, and how the parents talk about the other parent is extremely important for their relationship, because often they will tell their children how stupid, or insert adjective here, about their parent, and that just doesn't make them like that parent more. It actually makes them not like the parent talking about them more. So the relationships change also with the father. There's there's a picture here that shows that 90% of homeless and runaway youth don't have fathers. 71% of high school dropouts have a lost father role, and 61% of youth suicides are children without fathers. So the father role is an important role, and often it is very distant or not there at all in divorce. Also, there's trust issues when it comes to relationships. These are just friendships or parental, whatever. What's that? There's trust issues because they're less able to open up. They often don't value a relationship as much as they would. They don't find such importance in it because they just see the negative impacts of such a trusting relationship. Friendships also, while they were created, become distant, or if they haven't been created yet, people or children who have divorced are much less able to we'll figure it out. I'm really bad at this. Okay. So in the future, they have a few things to be worried about. Economically, they grew up in a less economic status than they would have had if their parents remained married, so that can keep them, if they become in poverty, that can keep them in the poverty cycle. So that's a big issue. Marriage, most children are afraid of marriage, of divorce, and if they aren't afraid of marriage and they do get married, they are much more likely to become divorced. Yes. They are in the school system, they have higher stress levels, they are statistics show that they are less academically successful than other students, and they are very unforgiving to their parents often, which can lead to a series of psychological issues. There was a study shown from Ivy League schools of children of divorce, and they came back 5 years later and asked if anything had changed, and the Ivy League students who broke all the statistics with academics and continued powering through their struggles said that they still hated their parents, they still resented them, they felt that they weren't worthy. So these things happen to everyone, and they rarely forgive their parents the rest of their life. Also, big events are a big issue in the future, such as like graduations, weddings, even this big board presentation, for example. The one thing that was on my mind this whole morning was, my parents are both going to be in this room together. Is that going to work? And that's not supposed to be an issue for big events that you're supposed to be celebrating. But big events that are usually supposed to be celebrated and welcomed and exciting tend to be nerve-wracking because you aren't sure how your parents are going to react. You can tell me if this doesn't go with it.
Can you hear it?
Can you spell yours?
I can hear it a little bit, but I don't think the camera will be able to pick it up very much.
Thanksgiving, well, they got the Honduras building schools with the U.S. CARES program, but do they know the U.S. CARES program doesn't exist? So, sounds real. Yeah, I've got it figured out, but I don't know, this wedding, it's risky. I guess I'm just looking for some advice. Someone to talk to super quick to figure out how to survive the next few months.
Okay. So there are researchers who do disagree, and they believe that divorce can actually benefit children. And a few of their arguments are that there becomes normality with time, it can lead to better things, and it's better than the constant bickering. And normality with time, obviously, we've just shown that there is no normality with time. Never do kids, after their parents get a divorce, feel that they might feel that they've been normal, but the psychological issues go much further back, and they remain much longer than the average person might think. Also, they argue that it leads to better things. I don't know what better things it would lead to unless it was in an issue of abuse, which is not like a very, I can't say
Prevalent,
very common issue. I mean,
You can reword it. We'll figure it out.
it's blah, blah, blah. Whatever.
It's not generally the case.
Yes, not generally the case, that's good. And then, lastly, they argue that it's better than the constant fighting, but to be honest, in many situations, the fighting only gets worse, and they don't immediately stop fighting once they aren't married. They have to go to court, they have to settle many
Disputes.
disputes, and if they do have children, they will still remain in the same life, so the fighting does not decrease in any way. So then for my service learning project, I went to circuit court and worked with Judge Karen McDonald. Do I say that I'm related to her? My stepmom,
Mm-hmm.
my stepmom, Judge Karen McDonald, who is a family law judge. And I worked with PPO cases, which is personal protection orders, and I worked with, the majority of personal protection cases are filed from divorced parents. So I worked with them and provided them a pamphlet of divorce-related issues, such as like helplines, like the best methods to go about this with their children, things of that nature. And I worked with them and pretty much, I don't really know, I haven't done it yet, so that's what I did. And this is my project. That was awful.
That's fine. You're 18 minutes right now.
Oh, shooty.
But you would have like another minute for the survey thing, and then like,
I need to practice this 18,000 more times.
I think you're fine. I don't think you did.